It is difficult for most of us today to imagine our lives without a constant exchange with others. Just think about what you make use of each day and how little of it you produce yourself. Trading goods with each other is as old as communication itself, and is part of what attracts us to form societies. As societies grow and the market expands, individuals will commit their labor to more specific tasks. One sells milk and makes butter. One forges iron and makes nails. One spins yarn and makes textiles. And the farmer grows crops. When the farmer no longer has to concern himself with making butter, forging horseshoes and tools, and making his own clothes, he is able to focus his time and attention on growing crops, producing much more of it, resulting in a surplus, which can be traded or bartered for the surpluses of other people. Over time, cities grow, giving rise to railroads and shipping lines to connect them. As the market grows ever larger, increased specialization leads to innovation. It was not long ago that nearly 90% of the people in North America worked in agriculture. Today, more crops are produced than ever, while only a small fraction of people actually work the farms. This same phenomenon occurs across all industries. Adam Smith wrote The Wealth of Nations at a time when industrialization was still in its infancy. Smith completed his tour of continental Europe as private tutor to a young duke, and as part of his payment, he was granted a pension for life. He returned to his hometown of Kirkcaldy, Scotland, where he began the task of compiling over a decade of notes and observations. 10 years later, Smith completed The Wealth of Nations, a book generally considered to be the first work of modern economic thought. In the book, Smith references a pin factory described by Diderot where each worker is responsible for a certain stage in the production of a pin. Smith related this manufacturing specialization to the broader society, where people focus on the labor where their talents or resources prove the most advantageous.
So it is this same trucking disposition which originally gives occasion to the division of labor.
Division of labor is the separation of work into specialized tasks. In focusing on a single task, a worker becomes proficient, possibly even discovering efficiencies of their own. The more people participating in the division of labor, the more that market benefits. Likewise, the larger the market becomes, the more opportunities there are for the division of the labor.
When the market is very small, no person can have any encouragement to dedicate himself entirely to one employment, for want of the power to exchange all that surplus part of the produce of his own labour for such parts of the produce of other men's labour.
If there are no people to trade surpluses with, there is no need to make a surplus in the first place. It is only when people can sell to wider and wider markets that specialization increases. Today's global markets have increasingly complex products and supply chains, meaning thousands of specialized tasks may be contributing to the production of a single good. And the goods you purchase and enjoy every day can be the product of a person's labor thousands of miles away. Here in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, this woman is beginning her day as she often does, waiting for the bus that carries her to the garment factory where she works. The people here have transitioned from an agrarian society to an industrialized one. Their lives have changed drastically in the past decade. Today they have more money than they did before, and as a result they can enjoy many products of their own country as well as those imported from other nations. The industrial park where she works is vast. Much of the work being done in these factories is outsourced from Chinese companies who wish to take advantage of reduced labor costs. The workers are primarily women, and while the working conditions are reasonable, their wages are low and the work is very tiring. thousands of workers arrive to work each day. This garment factory specializes in outerwear, light jackets in particular. Each worker focuses on a single task all day. One group traces and cuts stenciled forms. Another sews the lining. Another, the collars. Another, the outer shell. Some workers perform quality control. She focuses on the cuffs. Just as a nation is characterized in part by what it produces, so too are individuals. Smith argued that people's identities are largely influenced by what they do for a living.
When they came into the world, and for the first 6 or 8 years of their existence, they were perhaps very much alike, and neither their parents nor playfellows could perceive any remarkable difference. Soon after, they come to be employed in very different occupations. The difference of talents comes then to be taken notice of, and widens by degrees, and the very different genius which appears to distinguish men of different professions, when grown up to maturity, is not upon many occasions so much the cause as the effect of the division of labour.
In Smith's day, to argue that people were essentially the same at birth was a radical claim. And while he implies that specialization is a significant contributor to each person's identity, he laments the negative effects of the monotonous and confining work which may arise from specialization.
The man whose whole life is spent in performing a few simple operations generally becomes as stupid and ignorant as it is possible for a human creature to become. The torpor of his mind renders him not only incapable of relishing or bearing a part in any rational conversation, but of conceiving any generous, noble, or tender sentiment, and consequently of forming any just judgment concerning many, even of the ordinary duties of private life. But in every improved and civilized society, this is the state into which the labouring poor, that is, the great body of the people, must necessarily fall, unless government takes some pains to prevent it.
A rather harsh description, but it's meant to underline the difficulties faced by many workers. Not all find a comfortable place in the free market. Vast swaths of a population can become stuck in a rut of low-paying, uninspiring work, which makes it difficult for them to advance their interests and pursue more satisfying, comfortable, and secure lifestyles. Smith believed the true measure of a person's life extended well beyond their labor, that it was far better to love and be loved in return. The market alone may not ensure positive outcomes for all, and if a society's standard of living is to be advanced as a whole, the governing body might make some kind of effort to provide education and other opportunities. After all, there is more to people than just commerce.